everybody? Katie Blanchard, Schroth Method physical therapist here in the group. Tonight we're going to talk about posture, all things posture. I did a little poll in the group, and one of the things that you parents discussed that you were worried about is your child's posture. So let's go over that today. There are 5 different aspects of posture that we will go over today, and all of these are types of activity modification that your kiddo can change some things up during the day to help with their posture and make sure that their scoliosis doesn't get worse as we go through the years and perform the same types of actions. All right, so 5 different types of posture that we're going to go over. If you're on here live, please comment below live. And if you're on the replay, please comment the word replay so that I know you are here. Awesome. So let me take you back to my board because I wrote a few things down for you. So on here, not sure if you guys can see it, but I said check your posture. All right, it's a little dark, but here we go. 5 different types of posture that we will go over today. First is just going to be general posture. Then we're going to go over sitting posture, lounging posture, backpack posture, and lifting posture. So lots of different parts of posture just to give you guys a comprehensive lesson here. Awesome. And then I know we also had a few questions that were posted in the preliminary post asking if you guys had preliminary questions, so we will go over those at the end as well. Awesome. So first, let's talk about general posture. So with scoliosis, a lot of the times we have something that is called kyphosis in addition to scoliosis. So scoliosis is curvature of the spine. We usually have an S curve or a C curve. Kyphosis is rounding of the upper back forward, okay? So it's something that kind of looks like this. So that curve, as you can see in my back here, okay? And when we have bad posture, that kyphosis is emphasized. So we want to make sure we have good posture with scoliosis and kyphosis, okay? So in general, let's talk about good posture. In general, sitting or standing, we want to make sure that we have our feet shoulder width apart, shoulder blades back this way, making sure your torso is nice and tall, head forward. When kids are sitting in class, sometimes, you know, the teenage girls like to cross their legs a lot, and you end up sitting, crossing the legs in the same direction every time, just as a habit. So if I show you, sitting, say you like to sit in class like this as a teenager, right? And you're always going left over right. So when you're sitting like this, you tend to lean one certain direction. And so if you're constantly sitting like this, sitting like this, sitting like this, you're probably leaning into the curve that you have and emphasizing that upper thoracic scoliosis curve. So feet flat, torso tall, shoulders back. And is this, you know, probable that, you know, your kid will be able to do this all day? No, but I like to do something called a posture check. So, you know, every 15, 20, 30 minutes, say your kid is sitting in class, just have them do a posture check. So if they've been sitting, writing, and, you know, doing their schoolwork, or even texting in class, and they're like this, you know, writing papers on their iPad or whatever, you know, do a posture check. So every 10, 15 minutes, boom, I'm nice and tall, feet flat, shoulders back, and then you try to maintain that for as long as you can until, you know, you kind of go back into this position. All right, so just posture checks as much as you can in school, okay? So that's general posture. Let's go over sitting posture. So I just kind of talked about that a little bit. But if you can optimize the chair that your child is in and like computer setup, if they use a computer a lot, that will help with their posture as well. So if I have a computer in front of me, I want to make sure that the screen is at my eye level, so I'm not looking down. Having to look down like at a laptop makes posture worse. Lift that laptop up high so that it's at eye level and I can keep my shoulders back this way. Also, see, I am off of the chair here. This is great if you can hold this position, but in general, it's hard to hold this. So you fall into that forward posture again. So what you want to do is put something supportive behind your back. So this is just like a towel roll. So we're going to put this right behind the back here. Scoot back in the chair, feet flat on the ground, and then I have something supporting me, keeping me upright just below my upper back in my low back area. That's supporting me, and then I can be feet flat, working on my computer, or doing whatever I need to do for school, okay? So pull that chair in close to the desk so that you can work at this level here instead of being far away from my desk, having to scoot forward and being rounded. All right, so that is sitting posture. Third, let's go over lounging posture. So lounging, kids come home from school, first thing they want to do is sit on the couch, right? So let's pretend this is my couch, watching TV to relax, right? This is the typical position, like this. Maybe I put my feet up on the ottoman, right? So if I'm like this, there's zero support at my back, and see how my low back is really, really rounded, okay? So we don't want to emphasize that repetitive flexion, which is forward bending of the spine, and this is putting me in that position where I'm flexed and I'm watching TV like this, lounging, okay? So same thing, I want to put a pillow behind my back, scoot my butt back in the couch, or possibly put that towel roll behind me. Another common lounging position that kids like, because some kids like to sit on the ground, right, is sitting. Move this down so you can see me on the ground. With legs towards one side. Okay, so some kids like to sit like this, right? So if I sit like this all the time, then the same thing, I'm leaning into my curve here. If I have a left-sided curve in my upper back here, and I'm doing this, I'm making it worse by putting myself into a position where I'm having gravity push me more into my curve. Now if I have a right-sided upper curve, and I'm like this, and then I do the same thing, same kind of thing. Or if I do this, or even, sitting on the couch, say you have a stack of pillows, or you're by the arm of the couch, on the side of the couch, and you're leaning like this. Anything that you're leaning towards one side for a prolonged period of time, not the best posture for scoliosis. Finally, lounging posture. Some kids like to lay on their stomach, be on their phone texting, or watch TV on their stomach, or lay on their bed doing homework on their stomach. So if you're on your stomach like this and you're working or you're texting, doing homework, texting, whatever, you're in this extended cobra position for a long time. And we don't want to do that for the lower back, because then we're going into a repeated extension. And that's a lot of pressure on the low back, and that can also make the scoliosis worse. So that is your lounging posture. All right, so after lounging, let's talk about backpack posture. Okay, so we're going to lift the camera back up here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to grab my backpack. All right, so I have my backpack here. First thing is I sling it over one shoulder. Not always the best. If this is heavy and I'm carrying it to school every day, boom, I got one shoulder pulling down all the time, and then I'm causing this side to bend and emphasizing the round curve of this side of my spine. Okay, so we always want to do not one-sided. That's why backpacks have two handles. It's amazing, right? And we put it straight on our back this way, okay? Like this. And so when we have the backpack on both shoulders, you have even distribution of the weight. And then you're going to pull these two straps nice and strong so that the load of the back is higher up on the back. So if these are super loose, like kids like to do them, and this is a heavy backpack, this is low, and see how much space there is in between here, and that's going to pull me into more extension. So tighten these straps up, both on each side, and then you have a nice supportive backpack. I also suggest if you want to use a rolling backpack, that's also really good. If you want to pull your books in a rolling backpack, that would be great. All right, so finally let's talk about lifting posture. So if I drop something on the ground, let's say I have my marker here, and I drop it on the ground. And we want to teach good lifting mechanics. So if I drop that there, and I go to pick it up, and, you know, I do this, and I pick it up, and I come back. I'm getting a lot of flexion in my upper shoulders, rounding, and then also a flexion all the way down into my lower back. So when we pick things up, whether that be something light, like a marker, or something heavy like a big box of books, you want to do what is called a hip hinge. So basically, you want to bend at the knees and at the waist, the hips. So the hip hinge looks like this. So I go down, my spine is neutral, I bend my knees, pick it up, and come back up, okay? So the hip hinge is this first movement, like someone were to come and hit me right in the hips here, boom, and my butt comes back. Hinge first, my spine stays neutral, I start to bend, then I can pick up my object, my spine stays in neutral, and I stand all the way back up, okay? Anything light or heavy, that's what we want to teach. So to teach that hip hinge and neutral spine and lifting, I like to use a broomstick or a PVC pipe. So what you're going to do with this is you're going to have 3 areas of contact, putting this on the back. So it's a funny saying, but head, back, and crack, okay? So back of my head, top of my back, and then my butt crack is the 3 points that this pole, this broomstick, is going to hit. And then I'm going to hold this pole behind my head. And this stick is nice and straight. So we're going to practice bending forward with keeping all 3 contact points of this stick on my back. Okay, so see how I bend forward? The stick is still touching my head, my upper back, and my butt crack, okay? And I'm able to go down by hip hinging and bending my knees. You know you're rounding your lower back if you bend forward and the bottom of the stick comes off of your butt, okay? So this is something you can practice with your kids. You know, if this is happening, make sure we hip hinge first and then bend. And then you know that your upper back is rounded forward when you're picking things up. If you go down and then your head comes off of the pole as well. So those 3 points of contact: head, back, crack. Awesome. So your kids will probably think that's kind of fun to practice as well. Cool. So those are your 5 aspects of posture that we went over today. So we have general posture, sitting posture, lounging posture, backpack posture, and lifting posture. A lot to think about, but hopefully you learned something that you can apply to your child's life that will help with their posture. All right, so we have a few questions here. So we have Maya on. Thanks for being on. And she says, what position is best for kids when on floor, if not leaning or stomach? Okay. Honestly, the floor is not the best position. If you could be in a nice supportive chair, that's best. But if you have to be on the floor, like in class, you know, kids sit on the floor whatever age and they have to learn, or in gym class, I suggest sitting in your crisscross applesauce position. So although the legs are crossed, you should have equal bend in both sides, and then you could still keep spinal neutral being nice and upright, okay? So that's what I would suggest. If they like doing homework on the floor, you know, even having the homework here, you're always going forwards, or you're going to be kneeling weird or twisting. So I would suggest trying to find a nice supportive desk and chair for that. Awesome. Thank you so much for the question, Maya. Hopefully that helps. All right, and then I know we had some preliminary questions from the group, so let me see if we can answer those. Let me bring those up on my phone. you guys don't mind waiting. Let's see. Awesome. So we have a question from Kara, and she says, if a person has lumbar lordosis while standing, yet lumbar kyphosis when sitting, do you still want to work on mobilizations of those lower back muscles, or could it make the problem worse? Okay, so lumbar lordosis basically is the arch in the low back. So this would be lumbar lordosis, this arch here. And I'm accentuating it here. And then she says lumbar kyphosis when sitting. So basically when she sits, she gets the opposite and she gets rounding of the back. And so she's asking, should you work on these muscles, or is mobilizing the low back muscles going to make it worse because you become too mobile in that area? So basically my suggestion for that is you don't want to not work on the muscles of the back, because the spine can still be mobile and have tight muscles. So we want the low back to be, you know, both mobile and stable, but have a balance between the two. So I don't know if that answers your question. But some lumbar lordosis is normal. So the normal posture, even without scoliosis, is that you have a little bit of a curve in the low back here. Okay, so it's not totally flat. You get a little bit of space behind the back there. So some of that lumbar lordosis is okay. And I think working on the muscles of the back is really, really good. Those muscles, especially with scoliosis, always need a little bit of maintenance. You're not going to do too much to the low back to make it too mobile to the point where, you know, it's causing more issues. That being said, you should work on the muscles of the low back, but you also need to work on the strength. So strength of your core in the front, but your core also consists of your muscles in the back, so your lumbar extensors, and we want to strengthen those as well. So you want to be strong, but also mobile at the same time. I hope that helps with your question, Kara. All right, next question was kind of a specific question, but basically this person said that their son always stands with their head tilted to the left, and how do we correct that posture if your child has a specific head tilt? So let's say tilted to the left. Okay, so there's going to be a few things going on here. If I'm tilted to the left, my muscles on the left are most likely tight. So my upper trap muscle, my levator scapulae muscle, is probably tight and pulling my head towards the left there. So what we want to do is try to stretch and release any tightness in these muscles so that it's not pulling me this way. And then the second thing that's probably going on is the right side is going to be weak. So all these muscles, these lateral neck muscles, need to be strengthened. So something you can do for that is a simple head lift. So if you lay on your side and you tilt to the left, we want you to go towards the right. You lay on the left and you practice head lifts, lifting to neutral and back, lifting to neutral and back. So that's going to strengthen these muscles here. And then you have things like an upper trap stretch, using a lacrosse ball, anything, massage to loosen up the left side there. So strengthen right, loosen up left, and then just work on trying to make sure that your son is more aware of where midline is. So a lot of mirror work, looking in the mirror and trying to get that head towards midline and holding for like 10 seconds or so. Okay, so I hope that helps with head posture in that lateral type of plane. And then the same person, I think her name is Tina, asked, when your child stands, you can see a bump or hump in the back of the right side of the shoulder, and she's wondering if there's exercises near that can help correct that. Okay, so that is definitely because of scoliosis. So usually there's something called a prominence. Back in the day, they used to call it a rib hump. towards the side that your scoliosis goes toward. So say you have an upper right curve and a lower left curve. Your upper right curve is going to cause your right shoulder blade to stick out and back, and that's what Tina is referencing. But it's not the shoulder blade's fault that it's sticking out. It's actually because of the scoliosis and the rotation in the spine during the scoliosis that causes the ribs to stick out in the back. And that's why it used to be called a rib hump. Now we call it a rib prominence, because the ribs and the rotation in the spine point outwards there. And that's why everything with the Schroth method, we're trying to expand the rib cage and elongate the spine to help de-rotate the spine. And when you de-rotate the spine, the ribs that are connected to that start to also de-rotate, and that should decrease that prominence underneath the right shoulder blade. Okay, so Schroth exercises are definitely going to help with that. Something else to add is you can try to push that lower shoulder blade forward. So if the shoulder blade sticks out in the back on the right, imagine that point of the shoulder blade on the bottom, so the bottom of the shoulder blade, pushing into the back there. And you should feel pressure right at the bottom there. And that's going to try to help push those ribs and de-rotate the spine, de-rotate the ribs using the musculature of the shoulder. Okay, awesome. Those are really, really good questions. If you have hung on this long, thank you so much. Again, please comment if you have any more questions, and I'll try to follow up with you and answer those for you. I love that you guys are being so interactive in this group. I want to help you as much as I can. So if you have anything specific, I will address it for you, because if you have a question, I know there's tons of other parents in this group that also have the same question. Awesome. Well, thank you for everybody who was on live. And if you found this overall valuable, please comment the word valuable so that I know we are on the right track. Awesome. Well, everybody have a wonderful Thursday night, and we will see you next time.